No. What they're saying, right? Just be clear for our audience, because I actually read that article. I just look at that. But what they said was
Welcome to another episode of the Jury's Out podcast, a raw and uncut show where we talk about the real shit and we say whatever the fuck we want. It's uncut, uncircumcised. We got our sleeves on, so you can't hold us now. You can't hold us for anything because
the jury's out.
All right, today we are very blessed to have Matt Licari, who is a photographer, and I just met Jeremiah. Sorry, who's also a photographer. And so we're here to talk about the world of photography and all the inner workings. And so please reintroduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your path. So Jeremiah, please.
My name is Jeremiah Cumberbatch. I grew up in Flatbush, Brooklyn. I went to school for photography. I just got out of class in 2020. Now I'm in the field, photo assistant, doing my work.
Nice. Okay. All right.
Word. Okay. What about you, Matt?
So good to meet you, man. Good to be here. My name is Matt Licari, and I'm a photographer. I'm a fashion portrait photographer. Do some celebrities. Do a lot of personal work. That's what I do.
Okay.
In Brooklyn.
All right. So the world of photography. I mean, it's you don't really know what it looks like unless you're in it. All right. So how's your experience been so far?
So far, so good.
Yeah.
I feel like I have to hustle a lot.
Yeah. What do you mean? What does the hustle look like, or what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, it's like you go to school for it, and there's like there's a lot of kids who's just like in school, they're doing their work, they're working really hard, but it's just like you have to really get out there and do the internships and make sure that you're seen, like make sure you speak up in class, and then after that, after school is finished, then the real work begins. Getting out to the photographers like Matt, saying, "Hey, can I photo assist? Can I help out on set?" Start working for those photographers, and then start trying to get an agency or reaching out to companies who you aspire to work for.
Was it like that for you when you started out, Matt?
I mean, I think you have the right idea, absolutely, and I'm glad to hear it because sometimes I think people have illusions of what actually it's like to jumpstart yourself after school. It was like that. I mean, I think I did it in a wonky way because I think I was quite stubborn and quite uneducated in the real world of photography to some extent.
What do you mean?
What do I mean? I mean that my school, I loved it. I went to SUNY Purchase, but for fine art photography, but it didn't prepare me at all for the business side of it. And what it didn't do was give me sort of an identity as both a photographer and a businessman. And I'm both. And
you work for yourself, right?
I work for myself. I'm a I own my own business, so I work for my company, but I'm the sole employee. So essentially, I'm a freelancer.
Right.
And you're absolutely right, Jeremiah, that you do have to. It's an unbelievable amount of work, and when you get out of school, you have to.
Turn a little bit.
Let me
can see you a little bit. You ain't gotta look at him, but
look at that
face. When you get out of school, you have to do all these things that you're talking about. You have to reach out to photographers. You have to reach out to companies, brands. You have to create, you have to kill the inertia that you might have had in school, or if you had kinetic energy coming out of school, you have to switch it over from making work for projects and teachers and start to think about how to apply that in a business sense. So it's very different.
Now, is there like an ecosystem, or is it all like doing it yourself, making these phone calls,
like the Wild West?
Yeah. Well, it's probably a little bit of both. I mean, I think these days there are more tools for photographers to lean on, but it is a bit of a pick and choose which tools you want to pick up. It's such a wide-ranging thing that it's hard to say something that is
covers it all.
That covers it all. But
right.
I mean, for you, how does it feel coming out?
Well, I mean, here's the interesting part, because I was doing photography before I decided to go back to school, and I was like, you guys know me. I've been doing photography for a while, and then I was like, you know what? I need to go back to school for this because I realized that I didn't know enough. Like, I was just hustling on the streets, hey, let me take your pictures, all this kind of stuff.
Me too, I did that.
It's just kind of it was cool, but the jobs that you get, it weren't consistent with exactly what you were going for.
100%.
What was it that you were going for? Like that you felt like
I wanted commercial advertising portraiture.
okay.
And I didn't even know
In
how
la-
to
in-
express that.
In layman terms, like you wanted your photos in Times Square or like on buses, like
New York Magazine.
Okay,
You know,
okay.
like that kind of stuff.
I can relate to exactly that experience, and I have similar aspirations, and I've achieved some of them, but still, every time you achieve one, you want the next one. So I still feel a lot
My
like
God.
you in a lot of ways, where I'm like, but
Cup is half full, half empty. Yeah.
totally, you have to have this gratitude / like push for the next thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, totally like did the same thing. Like I remember having these ridiculous. I mean, now it's probably totally not PC, but back in college, I had these flyers I'd print out on a shitty little like HP printer, and I'd post them up all over college, and it would say, "Need a headshot? Call a hitman. Need a photographer? Call me." And it was like little like tear-offs with the numbers, you know. And I would give my business card to everybody, and then our mutual friend Brad would, and Brad's a God bless Brad. I love Brad. I love Brad.
But I'm about to shit on Brad.
No.
Who is Brad?
I would never shit on Brad, but Brad is a kook. He's an amazing human being that has an abundance of energy. And one day I remember he was like, he's just like the ultimate hype man, and he was like handing out my flyers. He was like, "Yo, like this man's a photographer. This man's a photographer." And I just remember going to myself like. This is one way to do it, but there's probably another way to do it, you know. And that's not to shit on Brad, because Brad is like the band,
or just anybody willing to do that work. Like you
yeah,
just saw
like,
someone.
and I was doing it just alongside Brad. Like I was no different than him doing that. Like, but I think then I had the same realization that I need to be a little bit more targeted in my approach if I want that level of clientele, because what you give is in relation to what you get, in a sense. And if you're giving to people on the street, you're going to get people on the street.
Right.
So, Jeremiah, you mentioned you had to do things like photo assist. What's that process like? What does that mean?
So before I went back to school, I met this guy. His name is Johnny Rosa, and he was a celebrity photographer. He photographed people like Tina Turner, Snoop Dogg, Arnold Schwarzenegger, like a lot of people in the 80s. And I was working for him, helping him like go into like the digital age, because most of the stuff he did was film. And I realized that there was a lot of burden on me as far as like photo assisting him and helping him out. I realized that he was like, "Hey, can you do this? Can you do that?" Like, you know, and I just didn't really know how to do it. That's when I realized, okay, wait, you know, and I didn't have any like photographer friends, or the friends that I had, they were on the same level. They didn't really know the answers to the questions that I had. So I knew I needed like someone who's not my employer to help me out. So that's when I went back to school.
Can't be like, I'll do it. Can you show me? No, that's why I have you.
100%.
Yeah, man.
So I mean, so you both talked about like the business side of it, right? Like, so could you talk more about that, right? Because we're gonna talk about the art, obviously, but like the business side, what are the challenges that you see that are really that other photographers starting their own entrepreneurship they should look out for?
There's a host of them.
So everything's a problem.
It's not a friendly time for photographers. Let me tell you that.
Yeah.
Well, I think what I just started telling you guys was like is really important, because what I realized was the mentorship was really important. And working for a photographer, because you know I was out there hustling with everybody else who was hustling, but there is a number of things. But I didn't have the money to pay for it. You know, like if I had all the money, I'd be able to hire whoever, right?
Totally.
But I think the best way that I found was to work for photographers, see what they're doing, see how I could help, and what I can learn from the situation. And that's how I grow. And that's so, like, I guess some of the people that I work for that was like really amazing, like this guy named Chris Kramer. He was doing like amazing work, like doing stuff for like Old Magazine, Vogue, like you name it, he was doing it. And I did an internship for him, and then ended up going on set and working with him. And it's like his archiving strategy was just like a big move, you know?
What do you mean an archiving strategy? Like he has like a library?
As far as like, as far as like, the way he preserved his photographs. So it's like if we're working together, maybe let's say we're on a job, right? Like we're on the beach, something happens to the hard drive that we're working with, like water spilled on it.
Right.
Like he had like a cloud, you know, like.
Right.
it was just like those are like that's a big business move to have a backup of like all the photos that you're working on on set that day. You know, like. It's like
that's grown man shit right there. Yeah.
Right?
yeah.
But sure. Matt, is that something that
Oh, I've done everything wrong. I've done everything wrong. And I tell my interns, like, do it wrong now.
Yeah.
Like, fuck up now. You know what I mean? But you're totally on point, and I'm so glad that somebody else believes in apprenticeship because there's so much you can learn. I mean, like, there's so much you can learn that's positive. You can be like, wow, look at how this guy archives. Like, maybe I can't afford that right now, but I need to start thinking of aligning myself with that path going forward. Like, what can I do to start preserving my work? Do I just get a simple double hard drive? Do I stick it in a Pelican, like a waterproof case? Like, what can I do? Or you can also say, like, wow, I don't like the way this guy talks to his clients. Like, it's not effective. Like, I'm going to let him make the mistake. I get paid for the day and as an assistant, then I don't do that. Or I'll be like, oh, the way he's lighting something, I actually see how it's problematic because when you're not on the line, it's kind of like, you know how if you're talking to a friend, you can see their problems and what they're doing wrong, but when you're in your own shit, you can't see it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Like, you're not on the line for the job, so you're not in it the same way. So assisting affords you that, like, first person but still bird's eye view, and it's invaluable. And I think a lot of just to kind of properly shit on the generation below me. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
No, you're not.
I'm half kidding.
Half kidding.
I'm half kidding. There's a lot of great people coming up. They're awesome, but there's this culture, increasing culture amongst some of those folk that are in the generation and the generation below that believe that they do things once or twice and they've got it. They can move to the next level. And it's like, you gotta kind of put in that. There's that, what's that?
The 10,000 hours or something like
the
that.
masters, yeah. So totally with that, you know.
But also like the tools that's the important part too of like assisting. It's like everyone gets to see our, you know, like on Instagram, like how to start a business, like the steps, or you know, like you could YouTube,
how to buy an LLC.
You can YouTube all that stuff.
Everybody know everything on social media.
You can buy a house with no money.
But when you think about it, what they're advertising is those are the steps. But what they're not advertising is what hard drive people are actually using in the industry. So that's what apprenticeship
standardized.
It's like
industry standards. And then even if they are letting those secrets out, because occasionally I do see that. You know, occasionally I'm like, oh, they let that one out there. I don't like that. but now, you know, it used to be, you know, I came from that era where I learned film, and as soon as I got out of college, film was like goodbye, and I was like, great, I just learned that, even though I totally love it and whatever. I came from this era where people were shifting from the old guard to the new guard, and the old guard is very much like, I'm gonna keep my secrets. I'm gonna keep my secrets because that is what makes me valuable, and that's no longer what makes you valuable because the internet has given everybody essentially equal information, for better and for worse. Like now, like 10-year-olds know how to make bombs. You know what I mean? That's not good. But like on the other side, now people that might not have had information, people in disenfranchised areas, people that would make beautiful photographs but didn't even know about photography, have this information, and that's a beautiful thing because this is for everybody. But that can no longer be your weapon or your secret tool or your activating part of your clientele. Like now you have to sell yourself as who you are, and that's to your question of like what business stuff we use. That's like where the social media stuff comes in. Like, how can you like essentially create a narrative or an idea of who you are? What's your business identity? We hear that stuff all the time. You know?
Right.
That's a keys, man.
Yeah, I mean, and it's crazy that like you know, the internet happened to just create that, and like now it's a necessity, right? A brand has to have a face. It has to have a personality. Right. And if that person is an asshole, then you're going to be like, I don't care if your work is really good. You're a dick. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly. No more Harvey Weinsteins out there, man. you can put me in a multi-million-dollar movie, but if you're trying to grab me by the pussy, I'm not trying to work for you. So
I don't know if the internet created that. I just think the internet sped it up.
Okay,
that's true.
So you feel like it was on its way to there regardless?
I mean, I think I think what we have always existed, but it's just what the amount of like information travels faster.
Okay.
Yeah.
True.
The internet is speeding up everything, you know, so for good or bad. You know, we shit a lot on the internet sometimes, but this is one of the good things about the internet, that now it has leveled the playing field for so many, like you said, disenfranchised people.
Exactly.
Where they can now get into business. And
I mean, I've seen people make pictures that, you know, in India that probably wouldn't have had access to this stuff, or if they were making good pictures, nobody would know about it because where are they going to post them on their local signpost, you know?
And also like you got to, you know, we got to give recognition to like the quality of camera on such a small device.
Oh, that's
right.
true.
And like the availability of that, because before you would need like, when my man's banging with over there, like it's a big camera with a bunch of pieces, all these different buttons with all these settings.
And then he be in the room at the end of the day in a red room.
Yeah.
I don't know much about photography. I remember my dad used to do stuff with the film, the black and white. You had to make sure it didn't get light or else it'd be done or some shit like that.
Or you didn't move the paper and your face is like this now in the pictures. I don't know how it works, but
your face looks like that in general.
but now like there's a camera on every phone, and so now you can, you know, and then the iPhones or even the Samsung, all these like smartphones, their cameras just getting better and better, and so like you know, like that was one of Apple's, you know, ways of advertising. If their billboards were like, this was taken on an iPhone, this 200-foot photograph, this billboard was snapped with an iPhone, which was brilliant. It was really smart, and so but like now that we have those in our pockets, like, you know, that's why I always felt like photography is something that you could definitely teach at a young age now, right? Because I got junior high school kids who got cell phones, and they always taking selfies and doing little TikToks and shit like that. And I'm like, yo, man, if you just knew how to like change the lighting a little bit, or like put a different filter, or get the angle right, you know, or use the shadows and stuff, like just learn those little things, bro. You have another avenue of artistic expression.
But the interesting thing about that is that fucked up photo would be a style in the future.
Yes, right.
You're right. You mean like a photo that is not conventionally good?
Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
Explain that. What do you mean? Like,
it just doesn't. It doesn't matter. Like art is art. Art is taste. It's personal taste. Like, and then you collect a group of people who have the same personal taste and willing to spend money on it.
And that creates a market and a value for it. And so, like, you're right. Like, you can say, like, oh, I'm going to take this, like, tile and shit on it, and that's art. And then all of a sudden, if you get 5 people to agree with it and 1 person with money to back it, all of a sudden, people be shitting on your floor a lot.
There'll be a lot of poop pics.
Yeah, and I mean, but, you know, it's like, it's true. That it's, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and then, so it goes back to, like, authenticity as far as, like, your personal style.
Right.
Because one day your personal style is going to be of value.
Okay. Yeah. So, what's your personal style?
The hardest question.
I'm still trying to figure that out.
Okay. All right. What about you, Matt? Because I know because I'm very familiar with your work, and you do a lot of black and white, which is so dope. What you do with light and with shadow.
Thanks.
So that's definitely part of that.
You know, I'm one of those people. I think some people believe that personal style or somebody's style is sort of locked in, and like you see a Richard Avedon or you see a Diane Arbus picture, and then that's that style. And to some extent, that may be true for some artists. Like, you know, when you're listening to the Beatles, or I'm sorry, the Beatles are a bad example because they're all over the map. You know, when you're listening to
the Migos. Yeah. They have an
Rolling
essence.
Stones, or you know when you're listening to Snoop Dogg, like there is a Swiss Beats.
Right.
You know when you're listening to Swiss Beats. Without a question, it's going to be like this,
Timberlake.
and it's going to be a little bit hood and like whatever. Versus somebody like an artist like Wilco or the Beatles. Or Outkast, where they're all over the map. And so I'm a little bit more like that. Like, as I grow, I ask myself, like, what am I about now? Because I'm not the same person I was when I took a lot of pictures of our friends who are still our friends now, but 20 years ago when I was photographing them. You know, I was a different person. I was in a different place in life. I was reflecting that. Because there's that whole view that if you take a photograph, it's really every picture is a self-portrait. In the sense that you are always taking it from your perspective. And even if you're pointing it at somebody else, you are choosing the perspective. So, but I mean, just to not evade the question, what my personal style is.
So what's your personal style right now?
Right now, I think my kind of vision or like goal or positioning is to be a listener and like calm and respond. And so then whatever happens in front of the camera happens, as opposed to like going into it with an idea of something and then finding it, because that's almost like a confirmation bias, right? Like if I go somewhere and I'm like, I'm going to go to, I've been photographing Yonkers.
I've been with you.
You've been with me, so you understand some of that process. If I go there, Yonkers, where we're going, is really hood. It's a really rough spot, and it's like about a mile from where I grew up, so there's this familiar element for me. And I could easily go there and make it look hood. Like I could make it look bad, because that's a confirmation bias. And what I want to do is show it the way it is. If it's hood, it's hood. If this corner's not, it's not. You know what I mean? If this person doesn't fit in, that's okay, because they're still them there. So that's my style, and that actually has created commercial problems for me, because it's not easy to say Matt does this or Matt does that, which is kind of what you were talking about in the beginning of saying, I want to be a photographer that shoots this, and then you market yourself for that. So I find that to be tricky.
Is it more effective to like, because like you were saying, like you as an artist, you don't want you want to be able to be malleable, but when it comes to the business side, right, being able to sell and convince somebody with the money to be like, yo, I can get this job done, right? It's I'm sure artistically it can be difficult to like say, that thing you're looking for, I can do that. Yeah.
I mean, and I'll just be quick on this, but absolutely, like, I think there's a way that you can curate your work. I tell my interns and anybody who's asking me for guidance, I say, shoot everything and anything, but don't show everything and anything. You know, like, make all the pictures. If you are inspired to make a picture, or if you're curious, take the picture. Don't ask first and then take it. Like, it's actually, with photography, is the only time you can shoot first and ask questions later. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's true. It's the only time you can do that. Like, that's it. Like, outside of that, you should not be doing that. But, like, and then ask yourself, okay, how do I feel about this picture? Do I like it? And does it fit with my work? Or is this just something I put off to the side for now? But with your clients, show them streamlined stuff. Be like, this is what I do. I shoot product on clean white backgrounds with beautiful light coming in the back and a very crisp focus, and that's exactly what I shoot, or whatever I shoot, people or something.
For me, sometimes it depends on the job, because it's like I end up putting like PDFs together. So you shoot all the work and then you say, okay,
what's a PDF?
Like the format that the
okay.
Adobe Adobe Doc.
You were in photography brain. It's not a special photo thing.
I put PDFs together. I'm like, what does that mean?
He's smelling his cup.
Maybe you should say a PowerPoint.
Yeah, like a
or a mood board.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
But let me ask you a question. You curate that towards the person that you want to work for, right? So that's what I meant about, what to show. You're like, you shoot whatever, and then...
Yeah. But it's like, like there's the website, there's my website, and then there's the job that I want to get at the moment, that's going to pay my rent. I was like, well, hey, I have this stuff on my website, but I also shoot this stuff. So I put that PowerPoint or slide together to show them that I could actually do that stuff that they're asking me to shoot.
And that's a direct communication.
Yeah.
Like, as opposed to...
Yeah. But like, how do you know what to show, right? Like, because now that you're saying that, like, I realize that every time, like, we go and take Christmas photos or whatever it may be, like, the guy will take a million photos, but will only show us a couple. So that might be going to what you're saying, like, don't show everything. But how do you know, what to show?
Like the editing process, or
right?
Like, not as far as altering, but editing down, right?
Yeah,
or
right.
like
editing
selecting,
it down. Right? Yeah, exactly. I guess there's no real answer to that question. I'm just trying to figure out, like, why not show me all of them, even the ones that have errors, or even that it's blurry or something like that.
I think I would. Well, I think they want to. You don't want to give somebody too many options, because they're not trying to sit there and look through 100 photos you took.
I can see that.
100.
I said like
only 100.
Easily.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You might be able to answer this better, but one of the things is, I feel like, it still comes down to style, but then also it comes down to the experience, right? I want your experience with me to feel like, man, this guy could never take a bad shot.
Right.
So it's the business.
Yeah.
It's the business part.
It's a little bit of an image
and sometimes,
management.
sometimes the lights just, the camera's going faster than the lights are going,
Right.
and then there's some dark shots, and you're like, whoa, delete that shot,
Right.
Eyes closed, they sneezed, whatever.
Yeah. So you have to edit out those photos. So then you get 1,000 out of 3,000.
Yeah. And also we're actually now less talking about our portfolio, and I think we're more talking, if I'm hearing you right, about processing the images during a shoot and then what to give to a specific client. But like as far as figuring out what photos to show a prospective client, to be like, hey, I want to shoot for you, here's some examples. You curate that stuff based on what you feel they may like, and you do your research. You look at You combine your research with what they've done with what your vision is of how you can do it better.
So what's the process of getting a client? Is it always them approaching you, or do you sometimes
You gotta fish for them. You gotta
There's a lot of that.
is there like a database, or is it kind of like, oh, people post, hey, I need a photo, like if there's like a, because I know for like government contracts, they're like, oh, we need this amount of equipment, and so a company, and there's bidding, right? And but those was like specific websites just for that.
Right.
Is it like that for photography, or is it more like, no, I got to be on here looking everywhere, and never taking a Craigslist one because those are always weird. But
you probably have similar and different experiences, I'm assuming.
I'm still fresh.
Okay.
I know. I heard there's bidding.
It's all over the map. It's all over the map.
Okay.
So I met somebody while I was on a hike with my girlfriend yesterday, and I liked their dog. I was like, I'm obsessed with dogs anyway. So I was like, blah, 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 dog. We started talking. They do something in the creative field. I was like, hey, she was like, what's your Instagram? Blah, blah, blah. They may just hit me up for a job. I'm very social. I'm very talkative. That is one of my assets for business stuff. I'll mention that I'm a photographer, and I'll try not to do it obnoxiously. And then, I'll do email blasts to people, or I'll occasionally post on my Instagram, like in the stories that, hey, if you need this or if you need that or whatever, just to remind people, So I do get a lot of word of mouth, but that's also because I put myself in positions where my word of mouth is effective. But those are the kind of jobs that could be random. Like they may just need a family portrait. And again, I position myself as a kind of like a high-end like fashion and celebrity photographer, but I am not above taking work, depending on if the work is good or if I'm slow and it's COVID and you got to be humble. So that's one thing. That's like one side. The other side, more to kind of what you guys were really asking about, is if I want to shoot for Vogue magazine, or if I want to shoot for the Couples or whatever, Givenchy or something, I'm going to first feel out if that's a brand for me. Like Ralph Lauren is not a brand for me. Like I don't want to shoot for that brand. I mean, if they came to me, I'd be like, all right, let's go. But you know what I mean?
Y'all listening?
Like Ralph.
Yo, Ralph, you heard that?
Yeah, Ralph.
Yo, it ain't Ralph though.
Yeah. It ain't Ralph. And we have mutual friends, But like they're not my vibe. Like I don't shoot like that, and that's cool. Like I am not. I and I'm not gonna get religious. I'm not religious, but I'm not gonna get all that. But I pray a lot about like bring. I try to say to the universe, like bring me clients where I can be of service. How can I be best of service? If I'm not gonna serve that client, let me not be in the way of somebody that can serve that client. Instead, how can I clear out the BS and get to the clients that both I can serve and that I'll do a good job and therefore have fun. So in that sense, I'll say, okay, the Couples, I like their style, or like X, Y, and Z, whatever. And then I'll say, okay, do I know anybody at these companies? Okay, maybe I don't. Do I know anybody that knows people at these companies? Okay, so I'll start with the social connections. If there's nothing there, then I'll go into the next tier is like, okay, how do I contact them on email? Who are their creative directors? Have their creative directors or have anybody at that company worked with anybody else I've known? Maybe they've done a shoot with another photographer, but the same makeup artist that I know. And then I'll say, hey, Leah or so-and-so, how was that shoot? Did you, or do they use the same photographer every time, or do they switch it up? And if they switch it up, so there's a lot of finding out.
Research.
So I do a few things. It's a research. It's social. It's targeted. But then there's also the casting the wide net and doing the email blasts and whatever, and keeping your personal work up also, which means making pictures that aren't for money but that are for you, because that makes you desirable to clients. They want to see that you have a vision.
So focusing more on the business side of it, right? Like, I know you said earlier that business was slow. Is that because of the pandemic or like other reasons?
Business is slow because of the pandemic. Business is slow because in my industry in fashion, it has been crashing kind of tumultuously for the last 4 to 6 years. And that's because of supply chain issues with China in the pandemic. And then before that, it was because of, or before and after that, is because of trying to streamline processes that used to be more expensive. So if you go to Macy's.com and there's a white grid of all the clothing and it's all on a white background, I used to shoot half of that stuff, or not half, a bunch of that stuff. And that was a great job, and there was a decent day rate, and it was 5 days a week, and it wasn't a day job, but they'd book me for 5 days a week, and that was a good paycheck. And then 3 weeks I would just do whatever else. And now they have robots that do that, literally robots. Yeah. And Amazon has that, and
robots, other literally robots with the.
Yeah, I mean they don't look like androids, but they're these. They're not like okay.
They got iRobot. They just.
Yeah, right.
What was that robot? Sunny? Looking like Sunny?
Smile, baby. Smile for the camera.
I took Matt's job.
Yeah. I'm like,
these robots taking my job.
I know, right? Yeah, I feel like there was a movie about that or whatever. It's like a Futurama episode with Bender. And anyway, they have these machines where the model stands inside. It's like a box with 4 strip lights, 4 fluorescent tubes. So they're evenly lit. Wow. And the art director, who's the person that decides essentially if the clothing is fitting right, if it's brand appropriate, whatever, they have an iPad that's mirroring what, it's kind of like live streaming. They can see what's up there, and then they'll just press a button and it'll kind of jump it to video still, and then whoop, up to India, and then India or Bangladesh will do their retouching because they're a big retouching market right now and very affordable, and they will bend over backwards for you, and then it'll come back retouched, and that's that, and there's no photographer anymore.
Damn. How long that take?
Oh, no time. I mean, they can't shoot as many looks per day because the machines aren't real people, so they're not as good. But they're saving so much money on photographers. Yeah. Why would? So I can't hate on it. It's a smart business decision. Mm-hmm. Right. So then you have to future-proof yourself and say, where will I be in 10 years that people will still want to interact with a human and not a robot? Okay. It's understandable people will want to interact with robots if it's cheaper. As long as the product's okay.
That's fucking scary.
It's scary, and it took me a long time. I had to literally grieve the fact that my industry was changing, and I think you were mentioning this. Unless you have a ton of capital, unless you have rich parents or whatever, somebody that's going to give you a ton of money, you can't just weather this storm without shifting your business, and it's hard to shift your business.
I mean, you got to buy those robots and rent them out.
I mean, dude,
robots.
I mean, you gotta.
I taught these robots how to.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've had people try to tell me, "Hey, can we pay you X amount of dollars to come in and teach us how to do lighting so that we can set up our own lighting?" And I'm basically teaching myself out of a job.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's tough because I'm like, I need that money, but then what?
Right.
Right. And so you have to think about where do people want real photographers, and where will they always? And that's probably going to be interactions. A robot can't say take a deep breath.
He got you. Dance puppets. And he's good with that, man. I've done shoots with him, and he'll capture you and just be like, okay, now turn 3, 2, 1, turn, and then you turn and it's like bow. You just they can't do that.
And that's what you were saying about apprenticing and stuff that's the stuff you can't learn in school or whatever, And I got tricks from other people, and then I get my own stuff and whatever. Anyway, sorry.
10 years from now, those robots gonna have audio tracks.
I know, right? Yeah. I know, for real. It'll be Austin Power robots. But
what you say, Jeremiah?
I was gonna say also the importance of having a person. Sometimes you're shooting in studio and you make the call and say, you know what, the studio light isn't working. Let's break it down, go outside and shoot, and do it that way, and then come back inside. A robot can't do that.
Right.
Discernment.
Yeah.
And now, so has it been slow for you as well, or with business, or?
Yeah, it's been slow. Right now, I'm really just photo assistant. I'm just putting myself into other people's hands and working on their teams and trying to get to know the industry. I was gonna piggyback on something you said, but I really don't remember.
I run my mouth a little bit.
Goddamn robots, man.
Yeah. So I wanted to get the lighting right, because I feel is it safe to say that lighting is half of photography, or is it more than half of it, because it's not only the camera, but it's the light that you capture.
Lighting is photography.
I mean, lighting is a big part of it. I remember being in Home Depot with my uncle at like 17, and he was like, "What's the most important thing in photography?" And I was like, "Lighting." And he was like, "Don't ever forget that."
Yeah, man.
Yes.
So you've got to set it up right, because I've been to your studio and you've got like all these different types of lights, and you know, these things that change the light and make it look like it's through blinds or something, or you know, there are some bulbs that look like it's actual sunlight, and you know,
I mean, or you could just use the sun.
right. But then you only can film like there's only two. There's like is that like a golden hour or a blue hour or something like that, where it's like in the morning.
Then it's still style.
Yeah.
Then it still comes down to style.
Right.
You know.
It's true. You can film in any.
Yeah, like you can have like overcast day, you know, like golden hour, like, you know, whatever it is, like it doesn't matter. It's like, what's his name? Alexander Hamilton.
Yeah. He was an incredible photographer.
He was a great photographer.
He was such a great photographer.
But anyway, so this individual whose name you can't remember, what is it about him?
I mean, he just it didn't matter. It didn't matter if he looked moody. It didn't matter if he shot from below where you could look like Halloween, like, you know, like it just doesn't matter. Like lighting is like, oh my God, it's anything can just turn into something. It's like what is now is only now. What is not the future.
Right. And just that moment in time, you're catching the moment, basically. That's could potentially never happen again.
Well, yeah. But I guess what I'm saying as far as lighting is just like personal style. Because your personal style is not my personal style, you know? Like I can shoot like really hard, edgy lighting, and this other person, like e-commerce is coming, like e-commerce is big right now, which is like how the robots are taking over. And that's like bright fluorescent lights,
open,
all clean,
filled
so you
in,
can
no shadows.
It's like photographers, like, you know, we valued like the hard shadows that gave you character and make you look interesting. You know, like that's kind of like it's going out the window.
You know, I think if I am hearing you correctly, and I agree with you, there's no one way to do it properly, because there's no right or wrong. It's just about understanding what you feel most inspired to do. So if there, you know, it's generally considered that you don't shoot in high noon, which is when the sun is directly overhead, because it's unflattering and the shadows come down weird and blah blah blah. It's very hot and
unless the client wants that.
Unless they want that, or unless you can find a way to do it good, or the badness in it somehow is interesting. As long as if the picture ends up in a way that either you like, which is successful then, in my opinion, or that communicates something, it works. So however that is, if you print it out and wipe it on the ground and then show it to, you know, you've seen art in art museums, shit looks crazy. Like, you know, and it works for some people.
And so I know Matt has been working with models. Have you ever done any work like that, working with like, you know, the female models?
Yeah, I've done some editorials.
Yeah. How is that? Because he invited me to one of his shoots, and they were like, you know, the girls like that were there started to like, you know, being shot naked, and I was like, oh man, like I didn't expect that, and I'm not in that world, so you know, I see titties, and I'm just like, oh, so that spark
Like
started to fly. I'm like, baby, I'm sorry, she just took it off. I didn't know. My eyes, I don't know what to do. Help me. Can you come pick me up, please? And so it's like, and I remember the model was like, can you leave? And I was like, yes. Oh, I was waiting for someone to tell me to leave, because I didn't know is this cool? Like, are you cool with this? Like, I just met you today, you know. So how is it like? I mean, of course you got to be professional, but like for somebody who doesn't understand that, like, what is that experience like?
I mean, what do you mean it doesn't understand it? I understand it.
I mean, is it like are there times where you know?
Learning curve for these
is there a learning curve when it comes to like either shooting nude or shooting girls in lingerie? And
I've never shot a girl nude professionally. And I
Those are the uncut.
Respectfully, I got you. Yeah,
well, I guess what I mean professionally, meaning a stranger just came into my studio,
right,
and then I had to photograph them and then direct them. Like that's not what I do. Like,
okay, gotcha.
I'm uncomfortable with that, you know.
Okay,
and also it really depends on like if I work well with the girl, then you know, it works. Like most people feel like I'm a comfortable person to be around, you know, but I also still give them like, you know, like we get like V flats and we give them a little dressing room.
Right,
It's like a little
Yeah.
wall, like
Oh,
What
like
a-
a
Little
private
corner, yeah.
partition.
What
Yeah.
about for you, Matt? Or like, how is?
I mean, I think there's a lot of misconceptions that, like, you know, that you're just always around this thing, and you are around it a lot, but you're not. It becomes just normal, you know.
Not the 60s.
Yeah, it's like it's not the '60s where there was literal sex everywhere, but it's not like there isn't stuff that goes on. But it's like, I know, sorry man, you missed the mark. But
You're born what, like
missed the
25
years.
years later?
Right? But like,
I mean, times are changing right now. That's
Oh
why
my God,
I don't
so
even know how to talk about this, but times are changing.
well, no, they are, and I mean, I can just say that like you can't be a scumbag, and like luckily I never felt like one, so I don't have to worry about that. Like I don't worry like, oh no, did I do that right? Whatever. But yeah, like the time for people to push their will on people is quite gone. However, back to like interacting in that way. Go for
Yeah,
it.
I mean,
creating the safe environment for them to like.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, because if it's expected, if they come in and they say, "Hey, I
Well-
want new shots," you gotta like, you know, you gotta set candles, you gotta
That's
play
the
certain
thing.
music so that they don't feel like, you know, it's like.
Well, I think if they choose you as a photographer, they're already comfortable.
Okay.
And I mean, that's you still give them a privacy, you know,
Right.
you still
Of
give
course,
them a
of
space.
course. Yeah.
But I think if they choose you as a photographer, they saw your work and they say, "Oh, okay, this is the type of work that he does, and I'm interested in being photographed by him." So, you know, they're expected the opposite sex to be in the room.
Right.
Yeah, generally speaking, if there's going to be any nudity, I'll let the model know beforehand, and I'll just say, "Are you comfortable with this?" And I'll let their agent know, and I'll make sure that their agent's aware of it. And you know, if they need to bring somebody on set to feel more comfortable, or if not, or whatever it is. If it's a friend that I've photographed a number of times, I mean, they'll know beforehand, but it's not as much of a thing.
Okay.
But that's like more of if we're shooting nudes, you know what I mean? But if we're and when I shoot nudes, I don't shoot like sexy nudes really. I mean, occasionally they are sexy because these people might be sexy, but not because they're intended to be like sexualized nudes. It's more for I just enjoy shooting light and body and portraits, and sometimes I don't want clothes on the portraits because the clothes can detract from, you know, the energy of the photograph. However, when you're shooting fashion or anything with models, and you know they might be changing, or even if they're not changing and they're just these like quite beautiful women or men or humans that are around you, yeah, as a straight white, like, well, not even white, that doesn't matter, as a straight cisgendered male, I will not deny that as a younger one, when I was 22 and 23, the prospect of shooting fashion was enticing, not only because of the creativity afforded, but yeah, of course I was going to be around cute women. Like, why wouldn't I want that? But very quickly that went away, and I was like, okay, yes, that's cool and all, but it's really not about that.
It's gotta be more than that.
It's got to be more than that, because you can't sustain yourself on like sexual energy like that. And if you do, then maybe you got a problem. You know,
Yeah.
or maybe then the porn industry is for you, and that's cool, but that's just not for me.
Yeah.
So it's like,
How do we make the models feel
yeah,
comfortable?
like how do we deal with them as human beings, and like and still, you know, it's okay to extract sexiness if that's okay. Like, that's cool, as long as it's a shared understanding of this is the dynamic that we're going for. If that's not shared, or if that's not appropriate, then it's not appropriate. You know?
Then you're going to have an issue.
Yeah, or then you're just not going to get what you want, or they're going to be uncomfortable or whatever, you know? But just having it, like, really treating them as equals and having a conversation with them, or, you know?
Did it take a long time to develop your style of interacting with your models?
Yes.
And
Yes.
What's that process like?
It was uncomfortable because, in my neighborhood growing up, like, I didn't grow up in a really rough neighborhood, but I think compared to some people I speak to, I grew up in probably a rougher dynamic than others. So it was probably somewhere in the middle. But for me, in order to be cool in my neighborhood, you either had to be a fighter, like a physical fighter, like, or a bully or whatever, or you had to be really good at like some sort of sport, or you had to be really good with women. And I wasn't really any of those three, and I was quite shy.
That's about every neighborhood.
I would say so.
Growing up,
You're right. That's true. No, that's true.
Those are the reasons I wasn't cool.
He's like, oh, it's making sense now. But like that's the case for a lot of young boys, and there's a lot of stuff that goes into that in generals and whatever. But without getting into that, I was never big and a fighter. I never wanted that, and I was not great at sports until skateboarding later on, and that wasn't even considered a sport then, and that was still when skateboarding wasn't cool. So my only way to maybe be cool was to develop interpersonal skills and flirt and be funny and this and that. And so that was the route that I took, but I was always uncomfortable with it because like it really, even though I was probably maybe effective at it, it didn't feel like me because it felt like I was doing it to be cool, to like get validation from my friends. Funny enough, I didn't really need the validation because my friends were there for me the whole time. Chris, our buddy, our mutual friend, I never needed validation from him. So the reason I say all this stuff is because I think the younger part of me struggled with the early stages in developing a rapport with fashion models because that younger part was acting a little bit. And when I let go of that and stopped having to be cool with them and just was like, yeah, just be you. And if you're a dork, and just make good pictures and just listen to them. If they want to talk about stupid shit, let them in. If they want to be smart, let them. Yeah. And that's that. Like, they're humans.
Oh, yeah, that's accurate. That's
talk
about
your pet
everybody.
rabbit. Let's do it. Sometimes you gotta get through that.
Yeah. That's the trial and tribulation growing up in every profession, man.
You're right. That's just my version of everybody's way to become more comfortable with themselves. Maybe.
Yeah.
You know?
I just didn't. Obviously we're talking about photography, so I didn't know that. That's also part of the process. So.
Yeah, because you're dealing with yourself a lot with photography.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to know about that process because, I know some other photographers. Like I remember years ago that they were like talking to somebody that was mentoring them, and it wasn't somebody who was profound and had a studio or was like in anything big. They were just taking pictures longer than them, and he was like, "Yo, you want to?" And he gave him like this stupid advice where he was like, "Yo, you want to, get a lot of work or get noticed as a photographer? Just find bad bitches on the fucking internet and just say, I want to take pictures of you." And I always thought, like, I never said it at the time, but I thought to myself, that's some creepy shit, man. Like, I don't know, man. Like, that's super like, yo, shorty, like, this girl's like super fire. You're just like, yo, I can take your photos for you. Like,
for free. That's a bad business,
right?
man.
Yeah. But not even that. It's like, you notice like that's all you're doing it for. And I'm like, that's not artistic, man.
Totally.
Like, that's super creepy.
Totally.
So I always wanted
all
to
about your
dynamic.
intention. It's
Well,
all about your intention.
Someone said that to me once.
Yeah. Somebody said that to you once, right?
Yeah, recently.
Yeah. Okay.
That's how I get my followers up.
Yeah.
And
I was like, I'm fine.
Yeah.
And that's the funny thing is that if you post a lot of like cute women,
You're gonna get
you're
some
gonna
followers.
get followers.
Yeah.
But
And
it's
so
like
it's frustrating.
all those followers clients.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Because they got a lot of followers.
Yeah.
And so
I'm like,
Right.
I know who I know. I know who follow me. I ain't worried about that.
Yeah.
Right.
5,000 good followers versus whatever,
100,000 people who just like it because you make
Yeah,
their
because
penis
they're
hard.
exactly. They're just tits scrolling.
Right.
half of them are probably robots.
Yeah.
That robot shit's scary.
So the robot,
They replace attorneys with robots. Oh my god.
bruh.
It's gonna be a while, man.
You listen, then we gonna have to be on the podcast interviewing robots, bro. We're gonna be like, C3PO.
That algorithm can talk to some of our clients. It's like all jobs are gone.
All right, well, we really appreciate y'all coming out here, man. Like, this is a dope conversation. We definitely would love to have y'all back.
Anytime.
Is there any sort of like outlets or movies or videos or any content out there that you feel would be beneficial to a starting photographer, a current photographer, people who want to change direction or something like that? Is there any content or what is it like? Platforms or anything like that you feel would be beneficial to them or that you use for yourself? Got him. I'm fucking with you.
I mean, I would say look at great photographers. Look at
who?
Look at Gordon Parks' work. Look at Bruce Davidson's work. Look at Richard Avedon's work. Look at Deanne Arbus's work. I mean, just a few of the greats. Just look at their work. Go to museums or look at in books and see if it does anything for you. If you're interested in photography, And then also I would say I had another one too. But yeah, and read the book by Robert Adams called Why People Photograph. It was written in the 80s. Bits of it are dated, but if you can let go of that, there's some really beautiful stuff in there.
Right.
Short book.
Dope, man.
So
yeah. And real quick, what are some don'ts? Like, don't, like 100% don't, I don't know. Like, some things that you just feel like, yo, just as a photographer, don't
pressure yourself too much.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
I mean, I think we just like going into the future, you know? And what I mean by that is that it's like bit by bit each day, like pace yourself, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like take your time. Like I feel the pressure of like wanting to be so big so quick, and by that pressure, sometimes it's like I'm nervous for no reason. Everybody's chilling. Everybody's like, yo, Jeremiah was the coolest guy. I'm like, oh, really? I'm like mad nervous. For no reason.
I can relate to that.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's like don't be too hard on yourself, really.
All right.
I really like that. Yeah. I'll echo that with like, don't, and I say this to younger folk, and they're like, cool, I got it, but they really don't get it. It's like, do not discount the importance of self-care, and don't become a workaholic, but work hard. There's a difference.
Listen.
You know, like really, really like
eat
self-care.
lunch.
Eat lunch.
So real.
Word.
So real.
Word.
Like, do you really need to like take that picture 80 more times, or are you just hungry?
Yeah. Grab a Snickers.
Yeah, for real.
Oh my God.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Once again,
Thanks,
we really
guys.
appreciate
Really
y'all.
grateful to be here.
Yeah. We'll
thank you
definitely
so
have you
much.
on again,
Thanks.
man. Do we have our artist a sponsor?
We have
Sponsor of TJO this week is Hopkins Barbershop. They're 2 doors down. Been in the neighborhood for well over 50 years, and they love our work, and they love our show, and they support us. And come get your cut right on Merrick Boulevard in Pineville Lane.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, and then we have an unsung hero of the week, which is Samantha Cake Robles. She is a member of the LGBTQ community. She's a tattoo artist, and her social work is involved in Coney Island with a neighborhood refrigerator. And so you can, she allocates all these different people to donate food so that people who don't have food can come to this refrigerator and get food. She also does food drives in Coney Island, like creates meals. Definitely during the pandemic, she was busting her ass for that. So we definitely want to shout her out and thank her for her service in her community. Nice. And also her tattoo parlor is also a safe space for LGBTQ to come and get the resources that they need in order to help themselves and their family. So we definitely 100% thank her for that. And with that, we are done with this motherfucker. All right.
No. So what they're saying, right? Just be clear for our audience, because I actually read that article. I didn't look at that. But what they said was
dropping gems like we preaching. Don't overstep the line of my freedom of speaking. We cast to the world, put the words in the street and connecting all the minds of the people we reaching.
Yo,
Jury's out.
tempted to get fenced in and contempting. Teach you motherfuckers a lesson and pressing the issue at hand. Nah, I don't care about objections, suspensions, and cell inspections. Just suppression of black lives is my passion. And love for my fam is everlasting. So stop gassing these asses with glasses. Cause in the end, I leave them where the trash is.
Jury's out. Jury's out. Jury's out.
There's no doubt what we about, and we kick it to the masses. Trying to spit the law, and we laugh off our asses. Breaking down the latest shit, carrying crazy lady shit. Glad I got no baby shit. COVID got me crazy, bitch. Damn, and you gon' have to edit this. The jury's out, so you can't even credit.
Camera phone, like how y'all feel about that? Like you think like there's real talent?
Tell them Sony made the sensor.
But yeah, I mean, it's like it's almost like it's a tool. If you use it well,